Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the channel amidst this global pandemic. We just have to talk about the ifs and buts of football now, and the could-haves, the should-haves, and the would-haves, as well as the might-happens and what could happens, just to keep ourselves entertained and to keep all of you entertained. So please do hit that like button. We would be making more content, but we don't want it to seem forced. There's a lot of channels out there, I won't mention any names, that are trying to pump out the content, but it really seems, I don't know what the word is. I don't know what a respectful term is, but it really doesn't seem genuine and authentic amidst the times we live in right now. And, with no football going on, it's obviously very difficult to make content. So bear with us. But the Friday afternoon show continues, and joined by Rita today, as well as Shawnee as usual. So we'll be talking about Ighalo, Sanchez, and then Smalling, as well as the prospect of signing someone like Jadon Sancho. So without any further ado, let's get into it, man. Ighalo is an interesting topic. I'm not really sure what his stats are this season. I think he scored 4 goals. Is that right?
Yeah, I think something like that. 4 goals and 2 assists or something.
Yeah, something like that. Something along those lines. In the short amount of time, the fairy tale story, the signing from China, came to Old Trafford, and he's made a very immediate impact in the team. And even some, I don't know if it's a minority, I think it's a minority in the United fan base, thinking that he might be better than Martial. Personally, I think you're smoking pot, if that's your opinion. Not because I don't think Ighalo could ever be better than Martial, but in a world where Ighalo could be better than Martial, he hasn't been here long enough to prove that anyways. So in both worlds, you're wrong. You're just wrong. He needs more time at the team to even have a shout against Martial. But yeah, continue smoking that good stuff. But yeah, Ighalo has made an immediate impact at Manchester United. He is, I won't say a fan service signing, but a lot of people have referred to him as one of us. And it's a very strange signing because it's almost as if we've gone through the 3 stages of Ighalo with this Ighalo signing. We've gone through the first stage where it was all panic, mayhem. We shouldn't have signed this player. We shouldn't be loaning players in the last 6 hours of the transfer window. It's a terrible signing. He's not good enough for Manchester United. And then we went, hang on, that was a good interview. This guy might be onto something. He loves the club. He's one of us. And then we saw him play. And then we were like, well, this guy could be a future signing. And, to kick off the show, I just want to ask you guys, where are you on Ighalo, and what are your thoughts on him? And what scenario do you think he stays at Manchester United?
Obviously where I am with Ighalo, I love the guy. Absolutely, I love him. He's probably one of my favorite players at the moment at United. I feel like he's still one of us. I feel like he's a proper fan. I think the way Ighalo stays is if he continues this form somehow, and he realizes that if he wants to stay at United, he'll have to take a big wage cut. And he'll probably be a squad player, a very important role. No one should disrespect coming off the bench or something like that if that's his role. And he will play a lot of games if that is his role, And if a Martial does get injured, he'll still come on. So, no disrespect to what he'll be here for. But that's, I think he'll have to be made aware that that's his position. I don't think Ighalo would mind the scenario he'd be brought in if that was the thing. And I think his club in Shanghai have offered him a new contract and a bigger wage. I think it was 400,000 a week.
Yeah, 400,000 per week.
Yeah, so 400,000 a week. So I think if Ighalo wants to stay, he'll take a pay cut and then he'll realize his role at United. I think that's the way he stays.
Yeah.
Money or passion, we'll see what wins. My opinion has changed on him. A few weeks ago, you could ask me, I'd be like, just give him a contract. Give him a contract because he's performing. He's a United fan. Like, it's perfect. But, after thinking about it, I feel like we need to start upholding a standard because we are Manchester United. And I feel like we need to limit the risk in these type of signings anymore. We've made so many risky signings over the years. And with Ole was a prime example. He performed for a few months. We were like, he's amazing. Yeah. Then down later in the line, we're not so sure anymore. So I feel like if we want to be the club that's winning titles, we want to get back to where we belong, we need to be signing a Werner or a top-class striker to work with Martial. And
okay.
He wouldn't be a bad backup, but in a perfect world, I wouldn't re-sign him, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. I completely understand the standard, and actually, I know this is going to sound weird, but maybe that's why we should sign Ighalo. And I'll explain in a bit. I think that Ighalo should never, ever, ever, in any scenario, be Manchester United's starting XI at the age of 30 when he's on the decline. But as a backup striker in the modern game, with his talent, with his experience, with his knowledge, with his wisdom, and with his pedigree, considering what he actually did with Nigeria at the AFCON, and the fact that he does have a known record for scoring goals in a team like Watford, I don't think he's the worst second choice option. And I don't know if there are many players around the world who want to come to Manchester United and be a backup option. Now, whether or not that's better than just getting a Werner who's going to compete for the starting lineup, I don't know. The thing is with buying someone like Werner is somebody's going to take the L, somebody's going to leave. You know, Martial's not going to be a bench striker for Manchester United, and if Werner's scoring the goals, Martial will start to look elsewhere. So, you know, for all parties involved, if Anthony Martial can stay fit and does get rested a lot, and we have someone like Ighalo as the backup option who's happy to be a backup option and doesn't want to take Martial's spot, and then we've still got a Mason Greenwood coming through the academy, I'm not too upset with that, to be honest with you. But I don't know where I fully stand on it yet, because obviously there's no football being played for a very long time, and we'll just have to see if everyone can get back up to fitness. So I don't know. And I would agree with the fact that we shouldn't just rush on the signing. We should take our time and think about it and not just give him a contract because he scored 4 goals and one of them was against Lask. I 100% agree with that. I think we should wait for the 6-month low deal to finish and then make a decision when that contract is done. Not before the contract is done. Because God forbid Ighalo gets a bad injury and now we've already signed him in the summer.
Exactly.
You know? So let's just wait for it. Let's just wait until the contract runs out no matter what we do. It's interesting now because that 400k, that alpha, might force us to rush.
Look, I agree with us finishing the contract, and I agree with the fact that he's probably a good backup because he won't argue for game time. But I feel like a lot of it has to do with the management in the club and the morale in the club. I feel like in the modern game, especially for a club like Manchester United, you play a lot of games, and Werner and Martial are going to play a good amount of games, and it's about how well Ole can manage them. And like I said, in the perfect world for a club that wants to aspire to be Champions League winners and Premier League winners, I think we should be signing a player of the caliber of Werner.
That's true. Well, speaking of high caliber players, Jadon Sancho on the right there, you know, looking good in that Dortmund kit. A lot has been said about him, you know, in the amidst this pandemic that we shall not talk about on the show. A lot of murmur and buzz has been going around with Jadon Sancho because people have nothing to do with their lives and they're bored and they want to talk about football, but there's just nothing to talk about if you're a United fan, other than, you know, the prospect of Pogba staying or leaving, and it looks like he's going to stay. I have a question for you, Reta, first. If Pogba stays and we don't get money from the Pogba deal, and our board, being our board, only has a net spend of 60 million in the summer, who are you picking? Jadon Sancho or Thomas Partey, or any other right winger that you would sign other than Jadon Sancho versus any other CDM you would sign other than Thomas Partey? Who are you picking between those two positions to come to United? Which position do you think is more important?
That's a hard one. I'm going to say right wing because I feel like we can manage with the two, or maybe, I don't think Match can do the one, but we can manage the two and maybe play Bruno Fernandes in front of them. I mean, it's working. Doesn't mean because we're not playing one holding midfielder and 2 box-to-box, we're not going to win games. We will still win games. And we do need more goals and more creativity. And I feel like a right wing is a must. It's a position that we've struggled with for a very long time at the club.
Yeah. And Shani, what do you think?
You know, I think if you asked me at the beginning of the season, I probably would have said CDM. I still think we definitely need a CDM, but I think, you know, right wing is definitely crying out for a new player. And I think I agree with Maloto. We haven't had a proper, decent right wing for a very, very long time. And I would love for someone like Jadon Sancho or another decent right wing. Can't really think of other right wings on top of my head, but I would love a right wing. And I think currently, you know, with the 3 midfielders we're playing, and if we had to play 2 holding midfielders, you know, I would take it if it meant we better someone like Jadon Sancho on the right wing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the ideal scenario for me would be get a CDM and a right wing, but I think if I had to choose one, I would choose the right wing for the next season.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think the right wing position is definitely more important in the immediate future because at least we do have a CDM in Matic, and at least we do have a few midfielders who will definitely be fit by the time football resumes anyways, who can do a job in that holding role. Maybe not long term, but some people believe in Scott McTominay. So I think definitely the right wing position has to be the most important because we can't keep relying on Dan James. Apparently, he has the most assists at United in the Premier League. Apparently,
United put it on the Instagram.
Yeah, that's a mental stat. Can we talk about that for a few seconds? Like, where are you on Dan James, especially after hearing that stat? Because clearly the guy is putting in work. There's some people in this world who love stats and think stats are everything, and then there's people like myself who say, no, stats are important, but they don't give the full context. You have to put context, and you have to widen your perspective and actually learn how to interpret things for yourself, and not just look at stats as if they're the be-all and end-all. Where are you with Dan James?
I like Dan James. I still think he's a good signing that we've made. 15 million, not a lot. I think he has lots of potential. He has got assists. He has got a few goals. Yeah, the recent form was questionable. But then, when he was rested and he was brought in back, and, he didn't have to play all the games. When we got Bruno and, the squad rotation, we got two players back. I thought, that it looks better, when he was used more as a squad player. And I think we should keep Dan James because I think as a squad player in the future, he'll be very important. And I think he could develop into an amazing player. Well, not amazing, but like good enough. Like, if someone, like if we had Sancho and Sancho got injured or something and James has to come on and do a good job, I think he would be a very good player.
He could be a good backup option, 100%.
So I like
that.
I don't really
Dan James.
I think he's definitely a backup option. Like, he shouldn't be starting United. Like, I haven't seen the stats, but I can guess that it might be the best at United, but it's not a lot of assists. Like, he's no Ryan Giggs. We need a top player to be playing there who's going to be playing at the standard that can win us a Premier League. And Dan James is just not that. I think on the bench, coming on for Jadon Sancho, that's perfect. He has time to grow, and his pace can be very helpful, but not as a starter.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's a good point. He is the top assister in a struggling Manchester United team, not a Premier League winning Manchester United team. So, for all you stat nerds, you really
and if you wanted
need
stats,
to learn to examine
Jadon
stats.
Sancho has got 14 goals in the Bundesliga and 16 assists. That's mad.
Yeah.
That's mad.
That is madness. Rashford, Martial, Sancho, running down those lines. Imagine that. We can
that front. I was seeing this other debate. I was seeing this other debate going on about they said if you get Sancho in and now you have Rashford, Martial, Sancho, Pogba, Bruno, and Fred. That this is just the lineup they were making. And then our defenders: Luke Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, and then De Gea. And then people were saying, could this team actually challenge for the title? Personally, I still don't think so. I think people aren't looking at how important depth is. But if that, let's just say in theory, if that was our team and that team was always fit, never got injured, and they never got tired, then they obviously could. I think they could challenge for a title, but that's not realistic. That'll never happen. Obviously, they'll get tired and there will be injuries.
Yeah, we'll definitely get third though.
And I feel like, I think that team will definitely make top 4. It should. If it doesn't, then we need to start questioning the manager. But I do feel like to compete for the title, we do need a CDM. Like, I feel like no one there at the moment is amazing in terms of that job. Matic has got the attributes, but just doesn't have the legs anymore. Then McTominay and Fred, I'm not sure if they're CDMs, to be honest.
I've always said that Matic doesn't need the legs if he plays next to Bruno and Pogba. The problem with Matic is when Bruno and Pogba aren't fit. You're not going to have your 2 star box-to-boxes next to your CDM to cover him up all the time. And I think with Matic, you always need someone to come off the bench from him or a second choice option in the lesser games. Because in the games against the Wolves, against the Brightons, I shouldn't put Wolves on that list actually, against the Brightons, against the Bournemouths, against the Norwiches, the games where Manchester United have struggled this season, where it's not about tactics, but it's actually about beating everyone player to player because you just can't rely on set plays. Like, you just can't rely on a 5 at the back against Norwich. You actually have to go and play them out the park because they're also trying to survive. You can't rely on a guy like Matic because you need a bit of individual brilliance and you need the team to go forward and take charge of the game. And I think that's where Matic loses. And if he doesn't have someone like Bruno and Pogba next to him in those games, which is very likely with our injury record, then we do need a bit more depth, or we do need someone else to come into a role. And I think with McTominay, in the future, he will be that guy if he wants to. But at the moment, I just don't think he's ready. That's all I would say about McTominay. He needs to go and learn the role, for me.
I don't think Matt can cover alone, to be honest. I feel like he needs a Fred or McTominay next to him. I feel like he can't do it one man for 90 minutes. I just don't see that happening.
I really do think if he has Bruno and Pogba next to him, it doesn't matter. I really do. I believe that because if Bruno and Pogba are in the team, Matic doesn't have to push forward. He can sit on the halfway line and cover for Maguire or Lindelof. He doesn't have to run forward. That's what people don't understand. The moment Matic has to go forward, he gets hurt on transition play because then he doesn't have the legs to run back, and that's the problem. You know, Matic doesn't have a serious problem with pace when it comes to man marking in defense when he's got Maguire and Lindelof next to him. That's not the problem. He's fine in defense. He's actually done a lot of work for us defensively this season, I think. The problem is in that transition play. That's where Manchester United get hurt, going forward and behind. That's what I think anyways, but I could be wrong. And a lot of people seem to think that Matic isn't going to do it, but I've always had that philosophy. I've always said that you don't need 11 world-class players to make a world-class team. You need 4 or 5 world-class players and 6 players who have the work ethic and the characteristics such that some of the players in Liverpool have, and you combine that and you get a world-class XI with squad depth, of course. And I think with Bruno and Pogba working hard around Matic, as well as Maguire and Lindelof, or Maguire and Bailey, or Maguire and whoever, because, you know, people have started talking about Koulibaly again, and Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, we've got ourselves a solid team in the middle. But again, I'm more than happy to admit that I could be wrong, and I personally don't like Matic that much, but I'm just trying to give credit where it's due, and I think defensively he's been okay. I think the reason why he hasn't done well in this Manchester United team is because, again, he doesn't have the legs, and the people around him don't have the attacking prowess, bar Bruno and Pogba when he's fit. You watch our games, and it's like Matic tries to distribute the ball. If Matic is not trying to distribute the ball, it's Fred trying to distribute the ball, which is not that good at as well. And if it's not Fred, then it's Lingard or Pereira. This is pre-Bruno, by the way. And what's the problem there? The problem there is that we don't have a number 10, and we have a number 6 who can't do the job alone, so we're having to overcompensate by putting another guy there who also can't attack as well, by the way, by himself. When we have Bruno and Pogba in those roles, attacking by themselves while the other holds with Matic, what's the problem? You know? But yeah, it's an interesting debate. I will say this, I don't think Matic will work long term.
I think in a CDM pairing, I definitely agree with you. But with him alone, I'm not completely sure yet. I think it'd be nice if he played alone from time to time when we saw it, but I think back to Everton last year, and when we're under the cosh, he seemed to really struggle doing it one man. But then again, he also has to play a part in attack, as you say. So, like, it's up for debate.
Okay, guys, if you don't believe me, if you're not fully sold on what I'm saying, right? And my job is not to get you fully sold because it's about fan opinion and you can disagree as much as you want. And I hope you do, and get down in the comments below. But if you want any more evidence to support this argument, Matic's worst games this season have always been when he's had to do attacking work. When has Matic had a bad game since Bruno has got here?
Yeah.
Never.
I'm just worried
Matic always has bad games when he has to run forward, when he has to do that extra bit of work in transition going forward. If Matic is allowed to sit back and do what he does best, when you're playing in a back four, yeah, and then your fullbacks, so Shaw and Wan-Bissaka push up, Maguire and Lindelof goes extremely wide, and then your CDM drops in the middle. Matic would be good at that role. I just think there's massive questions about him going forward. Yes, and I completely agree with that. If he has to do any work going forward, it's a disaster. It's a nightmare. But if he's next to Bruno and Pogba, he doesn't have to trust. Bruno and Pogba's got that midfield on lockdown. He can just sit.
Yeah.
He can be a sitting duck. The problem is that's not practical. Maybe that's not practical because Bruno and Pogba won't always be fit. And you do need squad depth, and that's why I say long term he won't work, because in a City game, in a Liverpool game, it's fine when we have our best 11. But against the Norwiches, against the Bournemouths, he's going to struggle when he's playing next to someone else other than Pogba and Bruno. That's when his true colours gets exposed, and that's when the problem comes. And that's where I agree. We 100% need a younger CDM. And look, I would say the same about Busquets. Busquets is an amazing player, but if he doesn't have the world-class players around him, all of a sudden he's too slow. All of a sudden he can't get rid of the ball quickly enough. All of a sudden he can't dribble. All of a sudden the calm, poised Busquets becomes the absolute bottler because he's taking too long to get rid of the ball. And I can make a few other examples. Yeah. But, football's not that simple, and that's one isolated scenario. I'm just talking about games where Bruno and Pogba are fit anyway, so, it's a weird one. It's a weird one. But let us know what your opinions are. Have a think about it. Get those football juices flowing. Shall we move on then to the other topics that aren't talked about a lot? The prospect of Sanchez on 400k, by the way, return in the summer. Chris Smalling, who's actually had a good season in Roma, I don't know what the stance is on Chris Smalling. I want to know what your guys' opinions are, but I'll start first. I think Chris Smalling still has it in him. I think he's still a good player. A lot of people think he's playing in a Farmers League, which is fair enough. He's playing in a much slower league, so maybe that's why his true colors have come out. If we do bring back Chris Smalling as a backup option, I won't be mad. If we do sell Chris Smalling, I won't be mad. Whatever happens with Chris Smalling, I won't be mad so long as he's not coming back to be our permanent centre back. Hell no. But if we get rid of Smalling, there are reports that, and I don't know how true they are, so take it with a pinch of salt. We might go out and sign someone like Koulibaly. I'm actually upset at that because why are we spending money on defenders when we still need a CDM and a right wing? So that doesn't make sense to me. So where are you guys on Chris Smalling? We'll start with him first before that other guy.
So Chris Smalling, I love the guy. I don't think he's slow at all. It's a Farmers League, but I don't think he's slow at all. I think Smalling is quick. He wins everything in the air as well. I like Smalling. I really like Smalling even when he was at United. Maybe he was in my cup. Maybe he didn't do well, but he didn't have the best players also around him. But I really like Smalling. Yeah. If it was up to me, I would actually bring Smalling back and play him with Maguire. I think Maguire and Smalling could work amazingly together compared to Maguire and Lindelof. My only problem with Smalling is that age. It's like he's going to turn 31 this year. I mean, so he could come in for maybe a season or two, but then after that we're going to be back. And I don't know if it's fair to tell Lindelof obviously to if he does come back to play on the bench, and I don't know if it's fair to Smalling also if you bring him back to say you're going to be on the bench as well. I think Lindelof and Smalling will both have to fight for first team, and I think I don't see a marriage working out there. So I think Smalling is good. I would love Smalling to come back, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Smalling would go somewhere else. I think, again, with the United thing, I think his loan move to Roma has probably opened his eyes and he realized that, he kind of enjoys football elsewhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if he left.
Yeah, I don't know about him playing first team football. He could do it. But again, why bring a 31-year-old when you can get a 21-year-old to do the job? That's always my logic. But I wouldn't be mad. It's whatever. I like Smalling, just like you. So
yeah, look. He's not a bad player. Even when he was at United, it wasn't bad. Yes, he tend to tuck shirts and give away penalties. But as Shoni says, he's got the pace. But I feel like we had reasons for letting him go. So we don't need him. Like, if we don't need him, why are we bringing him back? I think we have enough cover in defense. We don't need to buying centre-backs. Full-backs, maybe there's an argument, but we don't need to buying centre-backs. So it's like the whole Evans thing again. When we let him go, he was horrible.
Sorry.
The whole Johnny Evans thing. He was horrible at United, and we let him go. But now because he's performing at Leicester, we're going to bring him back. No, we should be moving forward and buying the best we can get. And with that logic, I don't think Smalling should come back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this whole. He's doing well at X place, or he's doing well at Z place. Let's bring him back. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works in life. You don't go to a different subject and say I'm doing well, and then come back to the previous subject you dropped. And I know that's not the best analogy, and then expect to do well. But I feel like it's the same with football. You don't go to another league, do well, and then expect to come back. Unless, of course, you're a young player and you went there specifically to improve your game in specific areas that you needed to bring back.
Game time, yeah.
Exactly. But that's not the case.
It's like,
Smalling didn't go to Italy. Sorry, let me just finish off here. Smalling didn't go to Italy and learn some new trade and become some new player. This is the Smalling we've always known and loved. For those of us who actually like him, it's obviously because he's playing in a team that is more suited to what kind of player he is, and a team that I don't really know how Roma are doing, but they're in a league that allows Smalling to flourish. He's not going to come back to United and suddenly be a different player. You know? Maybe he'll stop tucking shirts in, but other than that, he's not going to be this new breath of fresh air. He's still the same Smalling.
It's like, to go back to the subject, and it's like the Premier League and United were math, and now you went to Mathlet. Roma, Italy, slow league. More suited to him, and then because he's doing well in Mathlet now, you want to come back to math that you initially dropped, and you could get classed again.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Like, top caliber teams don't take risks and compromise. They do what has to be done, and that's what we're not doing at Manchester United.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, well, it's that time of the show. There's a massive elephant in the room. It's not COVID-19. It's, in fact, a different kind of virus to some people. It's one that's always injured. It's one that's always in the recovery room. And, this is, I don't know. I don't know if this is a controversial thing to say or not, but I used to admire Alexis Sanchez a lot when he was in his prime. I thought that front three with him, David Villa, and Messi, or whoever it was at the time, was amazing. And then when Neymar joined, I was like, oh my God, I was salivating at the prospect of Neymar, Sanchez, and Messi playing in the front three. Now you put Neymar, Messi, and Sanchez in the same front three. Neymar, okay, hit and miss. Messi, obviously still one of the best players in the world. Sanchez, oh no. Oh no. He does not get into that team anymore. And it's sad. It's sad to talk about because this is a guy who had such a strong career. And then he went to Arsenal. And it seemed like he was too good for Arsenal. And then he came to United. And now it seems like he's too bad for United. What went wrong with Alexis Sanchez? What went wrong with this player?
This man is too bad for Kaizer Chiefs, let alone United. But anyways, Alexis Sanchez, right? Alexis Sanchez. I was telling Moloto off air, I didn't like Alexis Sanchez. Even when we signed him, I didn't like him. I was telling him, even how the Hazard type of player, that he was there, he came in the Premier League, he won Premier League Player of the Year and stuff like that. But I don't know, there's something about that winger player, that prolific winger player in the Premier League, like a Hazard and a Sanchez. Those are my two examples that I've never really liked. And I thought when United signed him, I thought it was just it was just for a statement to shove it in City's face or in another club's face to say, we are United, we are this big, we can do that. And I thought it was harsh on Mkhitaryan because I also liked Mkhitaryan. And, Mkhitaryan wasn't even there for long. But Alexis Sanchez, I'm done with him, dude.
It's an Ed Woodward sign.
Yeah, I'm so done with Alexis Sanchez. I don't like this guy. I think it's the way people feel about Pogba. It's probably how I feel about Alexis Sanchez. I feel like this guy doesn't even want to be here anyways. He's useless anyways. He's always in the recovery room. This guy is getting paid loads of money. He's just wasting space and oxygen. I'd let him go.
I think with Alexis Sanchez, I've always liked him, but I never wanted him to come to United. I just thought it had bad written all over it. I just thought, what's going to magically change from Arsenal to Manchester United? Like, in your head, what is going to magically change? What drastic difference are you going to have when you get to United? Because this is a player, right, who played in a prime Barcelona team. And I don't know his backstory. I don't know why he left Barcelona. I don't know who would leave that Barcelona team, but apparently Alexis Sanchez would and Neymar would as well. I don't know what he went to Arsenal for. Like, what was the plan? Was he sold some sort of dream? And then to go from Arsenal to United when United's on the decline just did not make any sense for me. I think he should have either left the Premier League or gone. Yeah, he should have just left the Premier League, actually, because going to Chelsea wouldn't have been the best move either. I don't know what he saw in United, and I don't know what United saw in him. But what I saw in him was a player who worked hard, a player who was a proper badass, a player who was a really, really classic player. And I'm talking about prime Alexis Sanchez, so calm down. Keep your willies in your pants before you get mad at me. I saw a player who could carry an entire team, but that all just went away when he got to Old Trafford. And even from the onset, I was like, no, like, even if this guy does work out, like, is this the kind of player we really want to be signing? Because he seems like the kind of player who's got a big head and who, when the team is not doing badly, his head also drops. Kind of like Ericsson.
I don't think he was motivated when we got him specifically. Like, why would he be motivated? He just came for money. He left a team in Arsenal that was struggling and that needed him to step up. And he did step up, to be fair to him. All credit to him. But he was like, you know what? I can't do it. I'm leaving. Do we really want a player who clearly has a proven track record of leaving when things don't work out for him, whether it be because of game time or whether it be because of trophies?
I just didn't see the sense in the signing. And it's got Ed Woodward written all over it, because I've always said this on the show. Ed Woodward loves a big signing. Ed Woodward loves a controversial signing. Ed Woodward loves a signing that, has a ridiculous transfer fee and a ridiculous wage bill written all over it and has headlines. That's the type of signing Woodward makes once every 12 months, 60 million net spend. Thank you very much. The best CEO in the world. Best COO in the world, rather. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Rita? Because I know you liked Sanchez. I know when Sanchez came to United, you were very excited.
I remember back in the FIFA days.
Back in the FIFA days, this guy used to wreck us in the leagues with Sanchez. You know what I'm saying? The hat-tricks. What do you think of him?
Look, Sanchez at Arsenal was a star. He was absolutely phenomenal. You could not argue that this guy was world class. And he left the club because they weren't aspiring to be champions and they didn't really put much effort into buying better players. And I think he made the wrong move. I think he should have gone to Manchester City, because Sanchez is a passion merchant and he drives and thrives on passion. And at United, he seemed to be a very, very sad player. Like, it just wasn't happening for him. And we know what they say about United. Like, it's more about the focus more on the media and the marketing and less on the football. And to add on that, he was competing with Rashford for game time. So I don't think that helped. So I think that's one of the big reasons he didn't play well at United. Because I still think there's a play in there. Because you see now at Inter, he's not bad. He's performing decently. Yes, the injuries aren't helping, but he's performing at a decent level. But with that said, I don't want him back at United, because do you want a player like that at United? A player who just flip-flops depending on his emotions? No, you want a player who will always be playing at the high caliber, because it is a high caliber club.
Exactly. And we've seen this guy, Chile, win multiple trophies when players like Messi couldn't win trophies with their respective countries.
Yep.
We've seen what this guy can do for Chile and what an impact he has. And I think passionate merchant is the perfect example to describe a player like Sanchez. And this is how fragile picking a place to move, to go to as a player can be. Because here's a player who had it all written in the stars for him. Like wherever he was going to go, that team was going to win the next title. Whoever got their hands on him, and this is after he left Barca, they were going to be the next big thing. And, he came from Barca, he came to Arsenal. All right, cool. They had these aspirations of becoming a big team. They were consistently making top four and making Champions League football. It made sense in Sanchez's head. And then as soon as it started to drop and Arsenal started to decline, and then Wenger left, and then, the aspirations of the club just fell apart, along with, players like Ozil also losing it, by the way. I can't even remember what Arsenal squad looked like when this guy joined, but a lot of players have left Arsenal over the years. Ramsey's one that just came to my head. Ramsey's a very good player who left Arsenal. So long story short, this guy is a guy, and Mulata said it perfectly. He thrives in a winning team. He thrives in a team that's passionate. And when you take that away from him, you get the worst version of Alexis Sanchez possible. And I think going to Manchester United was the wrong move. He needed to go to a team that was clearly on course to building something massive. And that would have either been Liverpool or Man City, in England specifically. Any other team, wrong move. Because I think you take this guy to Chelsea, he's struggling. He wants to win trophies, but they can't even beat United in their own backyard. So, I think he's struggling. You take him to Spurs, he's struggling. They're losing to Norwich in the FA Cup. I think he's struggling. You take him anywhere else in England, I think he's struggling. And I think he should have just moved to another league, honestly.
The thing is, this is the reality now with Alexis Sanchez. He's going to be 32 this year. Right? He's played 15 games, all competitions, for 1 goal, 1 assist. Obviously, he has a huge salary. And I think United are going to be stuck with him. I just don't know how we get rid of Alexis Sanchez.
And I think the release fee is like, what, £21 million? Something crazy like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like, so that's the problem. So if he does, and if he comes back, I don't want to see him play. I honestly like, let him come back, but let him chow wood. He must chow it. He must eat the wood. I don't want to see.
It's really sad because Sanchez is you can argue now because of old age, but before all this injury nonsense and the whole wage budget thing debacle started at United, Sanchez was still a decent player. He may not have been the world-class Sanchez, but he was a decent player. And he may have lost it.
I'll never take it away from him. 2 back-to-back Premier League Player of the Year awards gotten to him. It was amazing. Sanchez was a great player, but then that whole move to United.
It just goes to show how fragile that decision is in a player's career. And I think what happened with Sanchez is, I hate to use these words because I never think life is this simple, but in this case, I think he's done. I think because of his age and because of the fact that he's built himself a golden cage, he's done. I don't see a team like Barcelona, Madrid, Juventus, Bayern, all the big boys signing a player like Sanchez with aspirations. Inter don't even want him, yeah. So I don't see a big team signing him, a team with aspirations of winning titles, signing a player like Sanchez. So I don't know where he's going to go. I don't see him starting at Manchester United regularly and going back to the level that he was.
There's only two places I can think of Sanchez, and that's either America or China. That's where I can see Sanchez getting, if he does move. I think it's one of those.
There are a few European teams who would take him, to be honest. Not title.
But who can afford him? Like a European team.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. That's the tricky part. I think. Look. There's a possibility that his contract might get run down and they could get him for free, like they did with Herrera. But yeah, you can go on.
I think Sanchez needs to make an intelligent decision about his career. One, he needs to lower his standards. He really does. And two, he needs to take a massive pay cut if he wants to be back at playing at a top level footballer. I think a team like Leicester could be a decent move because they have decent aspirations to challenge for top four and maybe one day even win a title. They have good players and they could really use a player like Alexis Sanchez. So a team like that with him earning 120,000 a week, I think that's decent.
Yeah, but he's got to go. I think he ruined his career by moving to United, and I don't know that he completely wanted that move either. Because, with player moves, it's never as simple as I want to go to this club and, your agent's going to make it happen. It doesn't always work like that. It's not always that simple. Sometimes you get forced into a move and forced into a contract, whether it be because you have crappy owners and people don't look after your back, or whether it be just because, that was what was appealing to the club at the time. It's not that simple, So I think with a guy like Alexis Sanchez, it's difficult times ahead. And I think he's got to take his career into his own hands. He's got to perhaps throw his toys out of the pram because that's what players do nowadays. And he's got to demand a move and try and be open about taking a pay cut if he wants to move, because it's not happening with that price. I would love to say smaller teams would take him, but smaller teams can't even afford him. So, there's no one who can take him.
That's what I'm saying. I think, China could be the most. Like, if he wants that money still and he wants to play, it might not be the best, but,
China could be the answer for him.
Or maybe ask David Beckham. He just started the club. Go ask David Beckham if he wants to.
That's true.
I don't know what it was that drove him to United. Was it that Arsenal needed Mkhitaryan back and that deal was more appealing for them? Or was it really that Sanchez wanted that much money? I guess it's possible he was tempted by the paycheck Edward was putting in front of him.
Look, I don't think it's that simple. Look, any human being who goes from whatever Sanchez was earning to what he started earning at United and doesn't find that appealing to some degree is a very honorable human being, and you're a very honest person, and I think you're a saint, and you might be Jesus if you're the person listening to the show. But I think you see that amount of money, and it seems like a good deal, but that's not the whole scope of it. I think with Alexis Sanchez, if you asked Alexis Sanchez if he could go back and rewind the clock, and make, if you had to put 3 contracts in front of him, Manchester United 400k, Real Madrid 250k, Juventus or Bayern, sorry.
City.
250k, or City, or even City, 250k. I think he would consider going to one of those other teams over United, especially if I think what made this deal complex was the fact that it was a swap deal and the fact that both clubs clearly wanted the deal to happen. Like, both clubs were clearly benefiting. Arsenal 100% wanted Mkhitaryan and they 100% wanted to get rid of Sanchez because he clearly wasn't happy. So on Arsenal's end, cool beans, there's nothing wrong with this deal. And from Manchester United's end, it's like, this guy hasn't worked with us either. He was amazing at Dortmund and then he came here and he flopped. We don't know what's wrong with him.
Got the number 7 shirt, biggest paycheck, back-to-back Premier League. It was such a, it was that sign, like Edward sign, like you say.
Exactly.
It was such an Ed Woodward signing.
Give us the player of the year who won the guy who won the player of the year. We'll pay him 400k. We'll snub City in the process. It's a perfect signing.
Yeah, we'll say up your City.
And then for Alexis Sanchez as a player, you're looking at this contract and you're saying, well, Madrid hasn't made noise. Barca won't sign me again because they don't need me. They're talking about Griezmann. Bayern, I don't know what's happening with them because, they just recently sacked Pep, and Pep is going to City, and City have all these marvelous plans. Juventus ain't interested in signing me because that money's just too much, and they look like they're going for Ronaldo. What team in the world was looking at Sanchez at that point besides Manchester City? So I think for Sanchez, it was like he had to take this deal now, or his career would have been in trouble. He had a choice. He had to stay at Arsenal and wait for a better offer, or just take the 400k. And I don't blame him for taking the 400k because, again, it's not as simple as, let me just snub United because someone's definitely going to offer me. It doesn't work like that. If Sanchez had rejected that, he might have still been stuck at Arsenal. It very well could have been that no one would have bought him if he had rejected that offer. So I think for him, it's kind of like, look, it's kind of if you're working at a company, right? And the standards are lower than the company you previously worked for. The pay is lower than the company you previously worked for. And the aspirations and the drive of your coworkers isn't working for you. And now you want to move to Facebook, right? But Facebook haven't said a thing to you. And all of a sudden, Google, you don't like Google that much, but Google comes with this amazing offer that you can't resist. What do? And Google tells you, look, you have to sign this now, or you can fuck off, mate. Are you waiting for Facebook, or are you taking the Google offer, knowing very well that Facebook aren't even looking at a guy like you? In all honesty, you're going to take the Google offer, especially if it's 400k a week. So I just think he had to do it. And it led to him being where he is now. And then you add the injuries on top of that, which just meant that his career fell apart. Because when you're in the recovery ward, you can't do anything. Yeah?
It's funny, because City were offering. On top of that, it's his former manager. It's a style he's played, and it just seems so perfect. It just was weird. What scares me is that I hope this doesn't affect us signing players like Jadon Sancho, because they look at players like Memphis, Sanchez. All these players have come to United. The players have flopped, and there's a club like Chelsea, which he apparently supported, which wants him. I can see us easily losing to Chelsea because of our history.
Yeah. Look, I think with regards to the whole Man City thing, that really was beyond Sanchez's control, because I don't think he was allowed to come into a press conference and be like, hey, I'm being held here against my own will, and I want to go to Man City, but the club wants Mkhitaryan in return for me. Help me, someone help me. I want to go to City. I don't think players are allowed to do that. I don't think that's how the world of football works, and that's how the legalities of football work. So I really think Arsenal were just like, you know what? If we get Mkhitaryan and you get to take Sanchez, that's a fair deal. Why would we give him to City and go and scout and look for another player? It's fair trade. And then Sanchez was like, okay, cool. If I can't move to City, I'll just move to the neighbors. I think that's what happened, but I'm not 100% sure, obviously.
He really wanted to leave, man. He really wanted to leave Arsenal.
Sorry?
I think at that point, he just really wanted to leave Arsenal. So whatever
that
came...
contributed to. Yeah, that contributed to. But yeah, I don't think it's that simple. Unless you're Paul Pogba, I don't think it's that simple as saying, I want to move to this club, make it happen. It doesn't work like that. If your club gets an attractive offer and they accept it, you've got to then sit and say, well, mate, am I going to take this, or am I just going to wait and hope that they take that deal that they've already shown they're not that interested in? And that's a gamble. That's a gamble, because things can fall apart very quickly within a matter of weeks. So yeah. But anyways, I'm not an agent, so don't take my word for it. Don't listen to my ignorant opinion. Please do leave a comment down below in this video. Don't be shy. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you listened all the way until the end, don't forget to smash that like button. Sorry, I can't speak. But without dragging this on for too long, I think that's it. So peace out. Unless you guys want to say anything else.
Yeah, I'm good.
I know.
Cool. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace out.